Yay! Perfectly synced. Yay! What?
I'm doing fancy hands.
Double fancy hands?
Double fancy hands.
Yeah, we've got a special show, so I think it's definitely worth the double fancy hands. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 295.
We are almost at 300.
Oh, gosh. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. We have an action-packed episode tonight. Our guest, this is a guest that we've just wanted on the show since episode 1. I would guarantee you since episode 1. And we finally got her. She's on East Coast time, so it is late where she is, but she's being super flexible with us, and we're excited about it. I just can't wait to introduce you to Mirna Valerio, because she is known across the internet as the Mirnavator. She has motivated countless runners to get out there, take on challenges, push themselves. And I can't wait to pick the brain and talk social media and just sort of the influence of that and how everything has sort of evolved over the years, because she's been at this for a long time, a lot like Ginger Runner. So it's going to be a fantastic episode tonight. I think that's it. I'm already a little nervous. So take the things I'm fiddling with away.
Crunching
Sit back,
paper.
Relax. Ginger Runner Live, episode number 295 begins now. Ginger Runner. Yay! What is up, everybody? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 295. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Mondays to spend a little bit of it with us. Joining us tonight on this episode is our wonderful guest, Mirna Valerio. I cannot wait to talk to Mirna, aka the Mirnavator, about everything that she's been up to for years now. She crushes ultra marathons. She's racing all over the country, up mountains, through valleys.
On the Kelly Clarkson show?
On the Kelly Clarkson show. Let's just start there. She is absolutely inspiring to all runners. And it's going to be really great to kind of pick her brain tonight about what that's like, what it's like being so motivating to so many people. How her life has changed in this process. I'm going to be digging in with social media and sort of the pros and cons of that, because she's obviously very popular on social media and how it's sort of taken over. So it'll be an interesting and fun conversation tonight with Mirna. It is not just myself, Ethan, the Ginger Runner. I'm joined by my lovely wife and incredible co-host, Kim.
What's up, everybody? Kim Tashima Newberry here. As always, if you're new, welcome. We are live, so we'll be having Mirna here in just a second. So if you have questions for her, please ask them in the chat room. I'm seeing there's people from all over the world in our chat room tonight. We have a couple Australians here tonight. There's a lot of familiar faces in there. So if you guys have questions, you can pop them in anytime now.
I had a feeling that our guest tonight would bring people to us from around the world, because she is such a global person, global personality. People are really drawn to her story, who she is. She's incredibly motivating. So I had a feeling tonight's audience was going to be not only just East and West Coasters and Midwesterners and stuff from the United States, but from across the globe. So this is definitely one of those episodes that will reach a lot of people. Before we introduce our wonderful guest tonight, we do have some individuals that we like to thank at the top of the show. Of course, a Patreon crew. We like to call them the GR crew. They are the reason that we're able to do live shows every week, reviews, films, everything that we do with Ginger Runner, from Tiger Claw to the pair of shoes that I reviewed last week. It is because of our Patreon crew. If you would like to join that crew, all you got to do is go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner, and you can join for as little as $1 a month. And I also know that our guest tonight also has a Patreon, and we'll talk about that on the show as well, and the pros and cons of that, and how it's maybe sort of helped shape the future of the Mirnavator. And we'll talk all about that in the show. Two individuals in particular at that top tier on our Patreon page are just going above and beyond. We love to thank them at the top of every Ginger Runner Live episode. Chris Lee out of Hong Kong. He has an organization called Trailblazer, showcasing all the beautiful trails in the Hong Kong region. Also has a really cool brick and mortar shop. I've gotten pictures and videos and chatted with him from it.
Nice looking place.
Super cool spot. So if you find yourself in that region and you need some guidance as where to run or get some gear, some nutrition, go visit Chris at Trailblazer. And Brian Sands, longtime supporter of the show, just stellar, beautiful human being who has an inspiring story himself. Lost over 100 pounds in this journey, ran his first marathon, first 50K, currently training for some pretty big races this year. He'll be at Tiger Claw, our race, volunteering. So you'll see him there if you're registered. So big shout out to those two individuals. And finally, we have a sponsor for our show in 2020. New year, new beer from Sufferfest. So big shout out to Sufferfest. We have known the creators of Sufferfest beer since they started, since they were driving a van around themselves.
And I'm actually going to post a picture of Gus when we got our very first shipment of Sufferfest with Gus with the new shipment of Sufferfest. So stay tuned for that.
To see the before and after.
Yeah, because it was in the early days of the tall boy cans.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I gave you my favorite one. It was the last cold one in the fridge.
You get... Thank you.
You're welcome.
That was very kind of you. I'll be drinking the Sufferfest Repeat tonight.
I have the FKT, which comes in close second to that for me.
Both very, very good choices. So thank you, Sufferfest, for supporting the show and helping the podcast version of this episode happen every single week. Gus, speaking of Gus, is sitting on my feet right now. I have a feeling he's going to be a bit of a pain during tonight's show, so he may have to be on camera at some point. I know people are not complaining about that. Without further ado, I would like to present our incredible guest tonight. Again, she's on East Coast time, so I apologize. I don't want her to fall asleep yet. Without further ado, Mirna Valerio, a.k.a. the Mirnavator.
Yay! You said for the first time, like we hadn't just done this before.
We do our best to keep the energy high. We have to be entertaining when live things like this happen. But at the same point, in my brain, all I hear is, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? It is an honor to have you on the show, Mirna.
Thank you for inviting me. This is like really cool.
It's cool for us because I feel like we know you, but we've never met you. But this is an opportunity for us to sort of pick your brain and talk to you about the things that I'm like, I've always wanted to ask Mirna this. I know that we have an incredible live audience that also has already asked a bunch of questions. So we'll try to dive right in here. How has life changed in the last 3 or 4 years from you? Because obviously from an outsider's perspective, it's just this skyrocket. Everything has just been incredible. How has it been for you day to day?
All right. That's a great question. Well, I guess the biggest change that has occurred in my life since 2015, when this all started happening, is the fact that I am no longer a teacher. I was a teacher for 18 years, 18 very long and mostly lovely years. Teaching the teenagers and the preteens. So that's the biggest change in my life. I am living in Vermont right now, in Vermont. I'm from Brooklyn, New York originally. And by the way, there are no Black people in Vermont. So so the fact that I'm living in Vermont is that's pretty huge. I'm here with my son, who's 16 years old. And I was always a teacher. That's how I identified. I was an educator. And then all of this amazing stuff started happening, where I was suddenly catapulted, into the public eye, as runner. And it had never been my intention to be more than a runner, because I was just running because I needed to run, and I love running, and I've always loved it since high school. And but it was a thing for people. It's a story, and it continues to be a story. The fact that I'm fat, that even though I've lost some weight, I actually lost 70 pounds a couple of years ago, and have managed to keep most of it off. Even though that wasn't necessarily my goal in restarting running back in 2008. People see me and they want to talk. They want to know my story, and so that's been the really really cool thing about this whole thing, and the fact that I have a huge platform, be it on Instagram, Facebook, or increasingly on Twitter, is really cool because I get to educate people about the fact that you want to run, go run.
Yeah.
You're an athlete. So so it's been really cool. It's anxiety inducing to have to hustle all the time and not to have a regular paycheck.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
I make enough money. So I'm enjoying life. I wouldn't trade it for the world. I'm having so much fun. I get to travel all over the place. I get to take my son with me. I get to wear great clothes, great gear. I get to be on TV.
It's like that's as a fan, like that's one of the coolest things to see is that we also saw this. I've been doing YouTube for a long time, so even long before Ginger Runner, I was doing YouTube stuff, and it was so special to see a YouTuber break through. So anytime you saw a YouTube channel or a personality sort of break through to either television or film or something like that, it was always very celebrated by the web community. And I feel like this is what we're feeling with you, is seeing you are one of these breakthrough stars. There's very few from specifically ultra running that have ever broken through to Kelly Clarkson, for example. Getting interviewed on ESPN or news, like that's really cool, but you have transcended that. Does that add any pressure or is it just fun?
It's a balancing act because especially with TV. TV is its own living organism. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of, very sort of algorithmically driven, and it's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Unpredictable.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's something I've been learning to deal with in the past couple of years as I've sort of entered the TV world. But it's also really cool because it gives you this entirely different audience. There are lots of people that are still not really on the internet as much as, we are.
Right.
In this room. Well, we're not in a room, but you know what I mean.
We're all in the same room.
We're all in the same room. But it's, like it gives you a different audience. It gives you a different sort of polish. And it's interesting. I don't know that I would want to do that full time. But I like what I do now because I can control it somewhat. And but yeah, it's cool because like who'd have thunk? I'm a performing artist. Like that's my background. I'm a singer. I'm a trained opera singer. I don't really do it a whole lot anymore, but it is my background. So I know how to be on stage. I know how to be polished. I know how to speak. I know how to act. I know how to sing, and play piano and all that stuff. And so that's kind of a natural extension of what I already knew how to do. But it's whoever thought that I was going to be talking about running?
Yeah.
Not me.
Like that is why I'm so drawn to your story as someone who moved to LA to pursue comedy and acting and found myself really disliking it. The system was working against everybody and it wasn't about who you knew. It was about who knew you. There's so many layers to that. I've talked about it in other episodes. People can go listen. But that is what's crazy is I never thought for the life of me that I'd be doing a show about running or talking to runners, something that I'm obviously very passionate about and have been forever. But I never in my wildest dreams would have thought this would have been what we do.
Right.
And I think that's why I love your story is because I'm immediately connected to it. I want to remind everyone that we are live with Mirna Valerio, aka the Mirnavator. We have tons of live questions. Kim is you're very diligent. Look at all those. There's so many.
There are a lot of questions. This is going to be a 4-hour show.
I'll let you ask a couple while I try to pick up our dog because it's an awkward angle, but I'll try to get him up here because he's being a pill. Go ahead.
He is being a bit of a pill. Great question from Sarah Burns in the chat room. Sarah says, Mirna, I'm not the typical runner size or shape. I'm doing 2 ultras this year, my first. What's the thing I don't know yet that will help me now?
Ooh, wow. Gosh, y'all hit me with the profound questions. Like you don't know what you don't know, right? So, the thing you don't know yet is how much grit you actually have. That's what you don't know yet. When you get out there, you'll kind of have an idea of what it is that you can do and what you can't do. And so you will tend to frame your experiences that way, but then there will definitely be a point where you doubt yourself, but your body will just keep going on. And that is the cool thing, I think, about long distance running, sort of ultra running, where you discover these entirely new depths of your soul and of your physiology, which is really cool. So that's what I would say.
Can we do another?
Yeah, go. You've got so many.
Yeah,
Let's get through
a
couple of them. Yeah.
Questions from Austin Shields in the chat room. Austin asked, what was the biggest misconception you had about ultras or ultra runners, and how did that change once you started running ultras?
The biggest, well, you know what? It's not even a misconception, because when I first volunteered for an ultra, it was at the New Jersey Trail Series Ultra Festival, Ultra Fest, and I just volunteered because I wanted to get free entry into like the 10Ks and the half marathons. And I was like, these people are nuts. Like, who runs 62 miles? Like, who does that?
Yeah.
But then you become so intrigued and curious about what it is that drives these people that you become a crazy person, because you're like, well, I kind of want to test myself that way. I mean, I just thought they were crazy. I thought they were a different breed. But it turns out that most of us we have a little crazy in us. So, and they're not such a different breed. It's just people that choose to exercise their endurance in this particular way. So, I think most humans have that commonality, but we haven't necessarily discovered that within ourselves.
Go for it. Is he okay?
He's fine.
He's wiggling.
Yeah, he just really wants to say hi.
Yeah.
Question from A2B2 in the chat room. They asked, you've had the opportunity to travel and run in many wonderful places. What has been your favorite place to run so far?
Oh, well, there are two places that are my current favorites. The first is the Trans-Rockies 6-day stage race.
Awesome.
That takes you from Buena Vista all the way to Beaver Creek, over 120 miles. It is fantastic. It is beautiful. It's one of the most amazing events you'll ever be a part of, that I'll ever be a part of. And then the other one is the Azores Trail Run in the Azores in Portugal.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Hawaii in the Atlantic. It's beautiful. You run over a bunch of volcanoes, and they're these little microclimates, and the people are so fantastic. So like those are my two favorite places. But I think there's Morocco. That's also very cool. Running in the Sahara, I did the first day of the Marathon des Sables, and that was so cool because when I think of desert, I think of Bugs Bunny, and I think of Bugs Bunny, and it's hot and dry, and he's dying. But the desert, I mean, it is that, but it's also other things. It's mountains, it's wadis, it's sand dunes and little dunes and big dunes and mud flats. So cool. So okay, maybe there's three places: Morocco, Azores, and Colorado Rockies.
Every picture that I see that you've posted from like another destination and stuff like that, this is one thing that I really love about it is you see it and you can immediately, like, as someone who is drawn to your story and loves what you do, I see you in a high desert or in the high desert mountains or something of Morocco, and I go, I want to do that. Like, I see Mirna there, and Mirna can do it. I want to do it. Like, I want to give that a shot. there's something about that I think has resonated with so many people around the world where when Mirna does it, that means I can do it. Like, you have opened this door to so many people and challenging themselves. Do you get that a lot? Do you get people telling you all the time what you've done for them? And does that overwhelm you at times? Does it fill you with joy? Like, how does that influence you?
First of all, I'll say that is kind of my point. Because I do want to show people that, hey, you can do this too. You could be here too. Even though for many people, like, financially, it's not very realistic.
Sure.
And I will say that I am sponsored. I have a lot of sponsors and collaborations and partners that allow me to do these cool things, these awesome things. But if we strip that away, here I am, a fat girl in a desert running a race. Yes, you can do that too. And I want to show people, even people that will never be able to go out to Morocco or go to the Azores or who are never able to go over to the Colorado Rockies and participate in a 6-day race or something. You can do something in your backyard. And the point of me doing this, obviously, other than, the benefit it has for me personally, is really to demonstrate and to role model the fact that, this is not a sport that is reserved for certain types of people.
Right.
Although it may seem that way, it's seeming like that less and less. But, in the past, it was reserved for skinny white people, skinny white dudes, or people thought it was. And the barrier to entry was exactly that. People thought it was for one specific type of body, one specific race, and mostly one gender. Now that the world has opened up, we've got gender nonconforming people, we've got non-binary people, we've got, we all people of all shades and sizes and increasingly socioeconomic backgrounds, who are able to participate in the sport. And that is so glorious. And that's why I continue to do what I do, because I want to share that with people, and I want to share that with people in my own community. Hey, see what I can do. See, you can do it too. I want to bring that to you. I want to bring joy to you. I want to bring you to joy. I want you to expand your idea of what adventure is, of what being an athlete is, of what going outside of your own sort of personal norms means. So yeah, that's why I do that.
I
didn't answer your question, though. Sorry. I didn't answer your question about whether it's like overwhelming or not. Sorry.
It's okay. Like, I found myself like, I am into this. This is super positive, and I want to keep everything this is fantastic. It's okay. Do you want to take a crack at it, or I can move on, because I've got things are loaded now, ready to go.
I will say really quickly that it can be overwhelming, but it is so cool to see that, this little girl from Brooklyn, I'm not little, this girl from Brooklyn has had such a cool effect on people, and that they are able to envision themselves, outside of their comfort zones. And even though it may be overwhelming at times when I get messages and DMs and stuff like that, keep it coming. I love it, because that fuels me more. That's
fantastic. And shout out to Park Slope, Brooklyn. It's my sister and her husband lived there for 15 years, I think. They moved to LA, and they're living the LA life now. But yeah, I love that place. Anyways, the question that I wanted to ask dealt a little bit with the negative side of things, because you deal with it in a way that I think all of us can learn from, as someone who also gets trolls, and like on this channel or on social media, both of us, people who come along and want to just spread negativity, put that into your lives. What advice, what experiences do you have sort of reflecting that stuff, not letting it get to you, and strategies that maybe you have, because we have viewers, I know, that will probably deal with it to some degree at some point. I'd love to hear from you on this.
Well, I will say that now I don't even really read comments anymore. And that sucks, because there's so many positive comments and and kudos and things, but buried beneath or like among those amazing comments will be one jerk who will say something just really offhand or something that's intentionally hurtful.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is that is only coming from that person's darkness, their own personal darkness. Mm-hmm. And 100% of the time, it has nothing to do with me. And sometimes I have to talk to myself and have that conversation with myself. It hurts. It definitely hurts. Anytime I see, negative commentary, even, something that is trying to be constructive feedback. And I mean, we're human. That stuff affects us more so than the positive stuff. And we hold on to that. And so, what I've learned to do is to, as I said, have that conversation with myself and really try to be an observer, and say, this has nothing to do with you, Mirna. This is this person's whatever insecurities they might have, whatever limited experience they might have with humanity. That is not my problem. Yeah. Right. And then I have to move on, because if I were to internalize every single negative comment I get from people, I would probably not be alive. And I don't say that lightly. If I didn't have the solid constitution that I have, from the amazing support of the community that I have, my family, then I might, if I weren't the person I am now, it would be a very different thing. Some people are really, really affected by negative commentary and online bullying, and that is definitely a thing. It's real. But I think at some point we do have a choice. We have a choice of letting that sort of color our own world experience, or saying, okay, well, here it is. I'm going to move on. And that's what I choose to do.
It's really easy for me, I think, with the performance background to put on a happy face, put on everything is okay, have this boisterous personality and be entertaining. It's really easy to put that on to cover up things that suck, whether I deal with anxiety and other sorts of things like that, and dealing with comments where you have 900 positive comments and you have one negative comment, and it's always the negative comment that you're reading. And I find myself covering that up. Do you do the same thing, or at this point, is that the decision you made to step away from reading the comments altogether? It was like, this is a conscious decision to just not even let that be a part of my lexicon.
I think that, again, I'll say I have a really solid family and people that I turn to when I'm really feeling down. And, there are definitely moments every week, even when something gets to me. But then I have people in my corner that remind me, sometimes I have to be reminded that I am worthy just like everybody else. And that carries me until I start believing it myself. Right. But yeah, I really don't I have learned that, that I have a physiological response to reading hurtful commentary, and so I don't want to feel like that. My heart rate goes up, and then I start getting a headache, and then I get really stressed out in my forehead region, and then it starts acting all crazy, and so so I know what it does to me, and so I'm not going to intentionally put myself there. Sometimes I do, I'll be scrolling and I'll see something, but then I just have to put it away, and that is a self-care measure. Because again, I don't want to experience those things. And I know that there are people out there that hate me and that don't believe that I do what I say I'm doing. But I know what I say I'm doing, and my coach knows too. Because if I don't, then he'll call me. So I can't even lie. But I think it's really important, especially for people who are social media personalities and just people who aren't. you can curate your own stuff. Like if people are making you feel like shit, sorry.
Swearing is
We're
allowed.
a swearing show.
We're a swearing show.
Okay, because sometimes people are really uptight about that. But I don't give a fuck. Anyway, so like you can choose who you have around you. You can, in real life and in your online life, you can choose who you have around. Sometimes people are going to get in. They're going to make their way in because they are expending their own energy to find you at work and email you at work or DM you or whatever. That says a lot about them. It says nothing about you. So if you can keep telling yourself that it has nothing to do with you and just make it sort of automatic, then you'll be able to move on and continue the good work that you're doing.
I love it. I think that's fantastic feedback for not only myself, but I think for all of our viewers as well.
Somebody in the chat room said, like, even if you're not a personality online, this is just really, really great advice that you're giving just for anyone out there. Yeah.
We have tons of live questions, Mirna, so let's get to some of those. I realize that some of them might be in different directions, but that's great. That's part of why we have her on the show live. So
yeah, great question from Maria Dalzot in the chat room. Maria says, have you always been immune to the stigma that surrounds living in a larger body, or did you feel out of place or have doubt when you first started running?
Another great question. I started running so that I could be better at my sports of field hockey and lacrosse. And that was the only reason I started running. Cool. I wanted to be faster. I wanted to last longer on the field. I didn't want to feel like crap after practice. I see you're drinking the FKT. That is my favorite Sufferfest beer.
Yeah, so good.
Black currant all the way, salty finish. Okay. I've never had that beer before. Anyway, but like that's the reason I started. Like I didn't start running with this idea that I needed to be in a different body. I just wanted to be a better athlete. So I, when I started running, I never had this feeling that I was different or that I didn't fit in. I had a very, very narrow-minded focus on becoming a better athlete in my sports, and it helped. Right? It helped me. It helped me to be able to last for 2.5 hours during practice. It helped me to run up and down the field for 2.5 hours, to have a ball, and a mouth guard, and a stick, and run on grass, because that was not a thing we did in Brooklyn. So yeah, like I never. It wasn't really until adulthood that it became a thing. So, and I realized that I am really, really privileged in that way, that I had great coaches that never, ever said anything, well, you need to lose weight to become a better field hockey player. I was pretty good. I was a really good lacrosse player. And so, I didn't fit the skirts, but it made it work. But again, that was something that was just a little hiccup, because my goal was to be good at those sports. And so, I never had that thought until adulthood, until other people started saying things and saying, hey, you know what, why are you running? Maybe you should just walk. Maybe you should just go play tennis, because tennis is better for your knees, right?
Right.
Not. So yeah, it really wasn't until then. And then, but still, like I still go out there and I do what I need to do, even when at the very beginning of my second sort of rebirth in running, that I did want to lose some weight, and I did, and then I stopped losing weight, but I kept running because running is amazing and it makes me feel good. It makes my life better. It makes me a better person. It makes me nicer.
That's one thing that we definitely notice in the house is if
you're injured or you have to take off time. Yeah, it's
your mood changes until you get that run in.
A
little spicy around the house. A little spicy.
I've definitely had periods where my son is like, Mom, I think you might need to go for a run. And then I do, and then I'm a nicer mom. Yeah. So yeah, like this is a very long answer to your question, but yeah, I never had that thought that I was like, I mean, I knew I was bigger, but it didn't occur to me that that was an issue.
I love that it's not even it just wasn't part of it. Your love of running was everything.
And it sounds like you had great coaches to help foster a healthy growth.
I had the best coaches ever. And I just wanted to be them because they would like be bopping around on I went to boarding school. So like after practice, they would just be bopping around running. And I said, I want to do that because I think it'll make me better at this really hard sport.
Right.
And so that's what I did.
What does your son think of all of this? I know I can only imagine that he's like, being 16, I imagine he's the teenager that's like, I am so tired of my mom doing anything. And like, I imagine he's being a teenager, but is he proud? Is he excited? Does he run? All that stuff.
He is 100% a 16-year-old. Whatever that means to you. He just came in from playing basketball.
Cool.
He is taking a year. We're taking a gap year between 10th and 11th grade because he gets to travel with me. And sometimes we get sick of each other, but he's a really cool kid. He runs, but he hates running. He runs like almost every day, but he hates running. And I don't have anything to do it. I don't tell him to do it. I don't say, hey, why don't you go for a run? He just does it because I think it makes him feel good. And so he, I think he's kind of over it. Once when CNN came to our house when we were living in Georgia, CNN came twice, 2 different times to shoot 2 different things. And I asked him to clean his bedroom both times. And he was like, for what? I'm like, because
it's CNN.
Seriously? So that's kind of, that's the kind of thing. He was only really excited when, so I coached Will Smith for his first half marathon. I think it was his first half marathon in Cuba. He did the Maratona half. And he was excited about that, because it's Will Smith. But CNN and NBC, like, he didn't care. He didn't care about the CW. No, it was Will Smith and Kelly Clarkson. He thought was cool, but it wasn't as cool as Will Smith. So, but otherwise, like, he doesn't want me to tag him on Instagram. He doesn't want my followers clogging up his feed. So yeah, definitely 100% a 16-year-old.
Classic 16-year-old. Go ahead, babe. I know you got lots of questions.
Yeah. I just had a question. Do you have any advice for women who want to get into the sport, running, trail running, ultra running, who may be dealing with a lack of confidence or body image issues, or who just don't feel like they fit the mold of that scene?
What gives you confidence? Going out and doing it. And letting yourself have those thoughts of, well, I'm not feeling really confident today, or I'm a little bit fearful of the trail, or I'm a little bit fearful of what people might say to me, or how they might look at me. People are going to say things. They're going to look at you. They're going to have thoughts, just like you look at people and have thoughts, just like, you say things to people, because we all say things and do things and behave in ways that reflect our experience with life, right? And so once you can be an observer of those thoughts, it becomes a lot easier to just go out and do it. One of my new things that I love doing that I really suck at is cross country skiing. I suck so bad. But I just,
and you're surrounded by snow now in the Northeast.
I'm surrounded by
everything.
Snow here. I'm not sick of it yet, though, because I'm not a real Vermonter. And also, I get to leave all the time and come back.
Right.
So, but I definitely have trepidation about going out there and falling and like people seeing that I'm a beginner. And this guy, actually, I was cross country skiing with a friend and we did not know what we were doing. And he's like, well, I'm sorry to say, but you guys look like beginners. And we're like, well, yeah, we are. We have no clue what we're doing, but we're having fun. So if you go into it with the mindset that you're not going to be good at it when you first start, you're not good yet, you don't know how to do it yet. That's the whole growth mindset. And frankly, as an educator and just as a person, I think everybody should have this mindset. You read about it online. There's a whole book on the growth mindset. I think it's Carol Dweck. I think she is the author of that book. But it's really about looking at something, saying, okay, I'm not going to be good at it when I first go out. I might not be good at it on my 20th or 30th time, but I'm going to keep doing it because there's so many benefits to trying. And there's so many benefits to facing that challenge head on. And you're not gonna gain confidence by simply thinking about it. You're going to gain confidence by going out and actually trying it. It's like if you want to go out and run, a lot of us start too fast. We run, like we sprint down the block and then we don't have any breath left or oxygen and we feel like we're dying and then we feel like a failure. Okay. So even if that happens, you stop, you walk, and then you try again. Just go more slowly, a bit more sensibly. But I think that's the way we can approach a lot of things, even if it's not running. You look at it for what it is, something really hard, and you try. Mm-hmm. There's value in trying. We live in a society where like we want quick results, and that shit doesn't happen. It does not happen. And if it does happen, you didn't do it for real. And so definitely, I would say, that the confidence is built, the grit is built by actually trying and letting yourself have those fears and like have them on your shoulders. Okay, negative Ned and Nelly and negative Nunu.
Negative Nunu is the worst. He visits me often and I want to punch him right in the neck.
Just an asshole.
Just an asshole. Negative Nunu needs to go bye-bye.
My right shoulder. So know that they're there. Have conversations with them. Maybe not out loud so people don't think you're crazy, but maybe out loud. I talk to myself all the time, out loud and on the trail, which scares people sometimes. But anyway, have those conversations, and just notice that it's there. Okay, you're here. I'm gonna do it anyway. Because there's no other way. There's no hack. There's no hack. You just simply have to put yourself out there, and it takes practice doing it. So maybe not with running. Practice with something smaller that you're scared of doing. Whatever that might be. And then expand that into running or into doing whatever it is that you need to do for yourself.
We live in this time too where it's so easy to compare yourselves to others or to see what others are doing and go, listen, if I want to run, I have these 50 other people that I'm seeing that are running further or running faster or running bigger weeks or whatever. It is so easy to get caught up in that. Mm-hmm. I'll never be able to be who that person is. So why even try? Rather than just like you're saying, just lock it in, give yourself a shot. Because if you don't, what is it? Take your shot. If you miss your shot, shoot your shot.
Mm-hmm. Right.
How will you ever know? How will you ever know if you're capable of doing it if you don't shoot it?
I love that phrase. Give yourself a shot. Mm-hmm. Give it a shot. Give yourself a shot. I love that because, but what happens when you do? Okay.
Worst case, you might miss. Best case,
right?
You make it.
Right. And just like, my kid is a basketball player. And so he's making shots all the time and many of them he misses. But the ones that he gets in feel so good. Mm-hmm. As a parent, and I'm sure they feel good to him. Let yourself try. Yeah. Let yourself try. Like I don't understand this whole thing we've got where we don't even try because something looks hard or we might fail. Hell, We all are going to fail at something. We are probably failing at parenting now.
Is he sitting off camera just staring at you? Okay, we're good.
YouTube video or something. But yeah, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna keep trying. There's value to me. There's value to my son. There's value to the world in trying. So just try. And if you don't get it, try again. Yeah. Sometimes you can try 50 times or 100 times. You know, you just got to keep trying. Make it a practice of trying and failing. So when you do fail, it doesn't feel so bad.
Yeah. We just had a presentation here in Seattle with Gary Robbins, Ellie Greenwood, and Dylan Bowman. Really wonderful evening of them talking about their struggles and failures and how they've sort of pushed through it. And Gary, at the end of his, kind of mentions this old proverb, which I've kind of forgotten about before he mentioned it, and kind of brought it back. And it's the fall 7 times, you get up 8. So it's that 8th time you get up. You know, it's you will fail, and that's good. It's you getting back up and trying that 8th time. That'll really prove it to yourself. Let's get to maybe 1 or 2 more live questions. We'll do our Quickie Question quiz, and we'll move into the after show with Mirna.
Yeah. So you mentioned a book, but you didn't mention your book. So Alicia Smith in chat room says, Mirna, any plans to write another book? Your book was such an inspiration to me, and I'd love to read anything you write.
Wow. Thank you for being my publicist. I always forget that I wrote a book.
A beautiful work in progress.
That was published in 2017. I keep saying that I'm working on my second book, and it's in my head. And it will probably be about this year of adventure that I'm having with my son. We've learned a lot. He went missing in Mexico.
Wait, what? We'll save it. Don't give us all the deets. This is too good.
Not give you all the deets.
You got to buy the book.
That will probably be the opening chapter, because I learned so much from that experience, just about being a parent who adventures, having this like crazy, wonderful life that we lead right now, and then kind of give people an update on my excellent life. So I'll be, it's actually on my to-do list today was to write for 20 minutes, and I still have not done it. So thank you for the reminder, Alicia Smith, my publicist.
Oh, wait, was that really your publicist?
No,
okay.
It's not.
Yeah. She is now.
Well, that's it. Congratulations, Alicia. You got a great job offer. Opportunity of a lifetime. You're already off to a great start.
My publicist is actually on vacation now,
so making deals on air. This is great. I think a couple more there.
Austin in the chat room asked, how do you choose your next race? Is there a bucket list of races that you choose from, or is it sifting through races that you get invited to and seeing if the timing works?
That's another great question. These days, I don't really choose the races, which is fine, because I don't have to really think about that. Just recently, I was gifted 4 races from TCS, which is the sponsor of the TCS New York City Marathon.
Yeah.
And so I got to choose from a couple, but I'll obviously be doing the TCS New York City Marathon. I'll be doing this 30K in Sweden called, and I do not speak Swedish yet.
That's the name of the race?
It's called, the race is called I Do Not Speak Swedish Yet. 30K. It's called, I think it's the Dinkelöpet.
Okay.
Sounds good.
The races, TCS Amsterdam Marathon,
cool.
And the United New York City Half, which TCS is also a sponsor of. So I'll be doing that, and then Broken Arrow Sky Race. Because I either get invited to these races, or I'm actually doing one of my Slow as Fuck trail running adventures retreats leading up to the Broken Arrow Sky Race. And those are retreats where I take people who are new to trail running, or who are just slow like me and want a slower experience, but an epic experience. I do that. So I haven't really had to scope out races or find them. They just kind of fall in my lap via sponsors or invites, and I kind of like it that way. And sometimes I will occasionally pick out a race or something to run with a friend or to support somebody, but yeah, like I don't even have to do that anymore. So pretty cool.
That's excellent. We do have a race at the beginning of May. If you would like to come run.
That looks crazy.
It is crazy. Do you like good challenges? Like, do you look at big mountain? I mean, Broken Arrow alone is crazy challenge.
9,000 feet of vert over 25 miles, sir.
I'm like smiling and nodding, going, yes.
We added
more vert this year too.
I think I actually am booked, which I was grateful for. I was like, thank God I gotta do something else.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The invite stand, we'll talk about it in the future, but it's one of those things I was like, Mirna would crush this. It's don't worry about it. I put you on the spot there. That's cool though that you actually get to do that.
I'm always honest. That shit is crazy. I once signed up for a race, a 65K in the Azores, right? That I DNF'd the first year, and it said 3,000, and I thought, I just looked over it, really quickly. I was like, oh, I got that with 65K over 3,000 feet, whatever. And I get to Portugal, and I'm like, oh, there was an M.
Oh my.
I was like, no.
That's different.
It was very different. And then like at 25K, I was like, see ya.
If you're expecting 3,000 feet and you show up and it's like 10, that's a completely different experience. That is not the same race.
Yeah. So I'm smarter now. But yes, maybe in the future.
We'll talk about it in the future. What's that? Oh, yeah. I think that's it for live questions for right now, because we do have our after show with Mirna, and we'll try to ask as many in the after show as possible. Before we, though, move into that, I would like to thank our wonderful guest, Mirna, for being on the show tonight. We have so much more to talk about. I feel like we've only scratched the surface. I just know that there's so many things I want to ask about, like social media and how she looks at growing the business and taking over the world, because that's basically the next step.
Yes.
So maybe we'll have to have Mirna on in a future episode. Maybe we can find out how her son disappeared in Mexico. But spoiler alert, he just walked through the door after basketball. So I think he was
found. Seems like he was found.
He was found. He was at basketball practice the whole time. Mirna, we do have a segment of our show that we like to call the Quickie Question Quiz. It is a rapid fire series of very easy questions. You just answer with the first thing that comes to mind. When you are ready for that, you let me know with a thumbs up and we'll just start ripping through.
Now I'm nervous. Okay.
Nothing to be nervous about.
All right,
a lot of math questions. Okay. What was your very first race?
The 10K, Avon 10K, New York City, I think in 1998.
Favorite place to run currently?
In the snow in Vermont.
Road or trails?
Trails, duh.
Bucket list race?
Ultra Trail, Australia.
Ooh. Favorite running movie?
The one with Kevin Costner.
Oh, we just talked about that last week too.
We did.
Oh, I forget the name of it.
McFarlane.
Yeah. That's it. Thank you, McFarlane. Guilty pleasure TV show.
Even though it's like a white savior complex, but whatever. I still love the movie. I'm sorry, favorite one?
Someone mentioned that movie last week, and we had forgotten the name of it too. Guilty pleasure TV show.
Whitney Waythor's Fabulous and Fat. My Fat Fabulous Life or something like that. I love it.
Favorite pre-race meal?
Like in the morning?
Yeah, let's say the morning of.
Toast, almond butter, maple syrup.
Nice.
Maple syrup that's the key.
Hello, Vermont.
Favorite post-race meal?
spaghetti, meat sauce, and a glass of Pinot Noir.
Nice.
Also nice.
And finally, what are you currently running in shoe-wise?
I am running in Merrell Agility Peak 2s.
Are those the orange ones? Do we have a pair of those?
No, the orange ones are amazing. They're Cirrus. But my favorite ones that I run all the time are the Agility Peak 2s.
Peak 2s. Sweet.
I was like, I just got a pair of the orange ones.
Yeah.
But
congratulations,
yay!
you did it. Yeah, you passed. 100%.
100%.
You do. You get to plug anything you want to plug. Tell people where they can find you on social media. Where can they find your book?
Where can they support on Patreon?
Patreon, all that stuff.
So I am on Patreon as the Mirnavator, and I've got all sorts of levels or tiers for you to join. I'm pretty new on Patreon, so I'm still kind of learning the ropes. But you can join at $5 to help me continue my work. Really on my Facebook page called Fat Girl Running. We've got 15,000 members, and it's growing exponentially every week. And it is a very supportive, non-weight loss, non-diet talk running group that is centered on athleticism and supporting you in your athleticism. So that's like a full-time job. I have my book. Please buy my book, A Beautiful Work in Progress. I make more money if you actually buy the paper book. Thank you.
Yes, we like to ask that
that's
too.
Good to know.
And I have a lovely, lovely retreat series called Slow as Fuck Trail Running Adventures. My next one is in June, leading up to the Broken Arrow Sky Race, and I will have a couple of other ones coming up. I'm hoping to do a winter one in Canada that involves a helicopter drop off. So my website is themirnavator.com. And you can find me on Instagram at the Mirnavator, Twitter at the Mirnavator, Facebook Mirna Valerio the Mirnavator.
That was probably the best plug. Most people
It was perfect.
Haven't probably said it 1,000 times, like on Kelly Clarkson and all the shows, and are just knowing it. So a lot of times it's, what is my
and we're
Instagram?
Going, it's this.
Here is your Instagram. We have it for you. We'll just take care of this. So that was so nice to be able to just this is wonderful. Our guest tonight, Mirna Valerio, aka the Mirnavator, is taking the world by storm, just absolutely crushing it, not only on the race front, but the inspiration front. She's changing the game, changing the sport, and it is an incredible honor to have her on the show tonight. So we are going to move into our after show. Before we do have one last segment that we like to do at the end of every episode now, where we get to recognize a member of the community who did something pretty awesome this last week. It is our GR crew member of the week, where we get to recognize that individual. So, Kim, who is our GR crew member?
This week's GR crew member of the week is Megan Schendel Dittman.
Nice.
And Megan ran the Black Canyon 100K, and she goes on to write, "What an amazing day. After all the soggy raining in Washington, you couldn't imagine a sunnier, prettier day for running. Such a beautiful course, such nice running companions. I felt strong almost the whole time. And with help of my pacer, who pushed me hard in the last 5 miles, I made my goal. Finished under 17 hours with a whole 3 minutes to spare and got my Western States qualifier."
That's awesome.
Huge congrats, Megan.
Megan, huge congrats to you. Congrats on being the GR crew member of the week. You earned it. And Black Canyon is by no means an easy race. It is a tough one. Way to get it done and crush it.
And warm for a Pacific Northwester.
Yes, you take
and dry.
You throw a Pacific Northwesterner into the desert, they melt. They're lucky to get home. Our guest tonight, Mirna Valerio, fantastic. Go back 3 minutes. You'll see it everywhere you need to go to follow her, support her online, give her a shout out. Thank you for being on the show. We're going to talk to her more in the after show. Just go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner to join us at $1 all the way up. And we'll ask her as many of these questions as we can before we got to let her get her writing stint on, because she's got 20 minutes of writing to do.
Right.
Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next week for more Ginger Runner Live. Get out there, train hard, race harder, and part of the hardest. Bye.
Goodbye.